Welcome to the Business Samurai Podcast. I am your host, John Barker. With me, my next guest is my good friend, Jeff Say. I first met Jeff when he was the editor / reporter / kind of multi-hat wearer of Inside Nova's Culpeper Times newspaper, which I had a column in for about 3 years. Jeff has since become the president of the Culpeper Chamber of Commerce, continuing to serve the local community there, and just appreciate Jeff taking the time to come chat with me everything about chamber and community involvement.
Well, thank you, John, and it's always a pleasure to chat with you. I always go to you for my technical and social media needs, and I don't know too many people that are as plugged in as you are, so I will try to be as plugged into the community side of aspect of things as I can be.
Well, I was going to say, with your involvement with writing the columns and running the paper and things of that nature, and then it seemed like a natural transition to go run the Chamber of Commerce when the opening came up, because you were already previously tapped into the happening. So, if you got to just take a couple minutes and kind of give a little bit of your personal background that led to you to taking the position you're in now.
So I am, if you might not be able to tell from my Northwest PA accent, I'm not originally from Virginia. So I was in the newspaper industry for 20 years. I started in Clarion, Pennsylvania as a Cubs sports editor in the early 2000s. And at the time, I met a young lady who was going to school for education, and she graduated and moved to Culpeper, Virginia. And we decided to try to make a go of it, and we were able to, and we got engaged in 2004. And my wife Sarah's plan was always to come home to outside of Pittsburgh. And if you know anything about the Pennsylvania public schools, you can't get your foot in the door because they hang on forever because the union is so strong. So eventually she said, I'm not going to be able to come home. You're going to have to come here. And I said, okay. So I applied for the sports writer position at the Culpeper Star Exponent in 2005, and thankfully the managing editor at the time, Rob Humphreys, saw something in me and brought me down to Culpeper, and I will admit that I almost immediately fell in love. It had the small town charm of my college town, while also I could see it growing at that time. So when Sarah first moved here in 2003, I think the town was approximately 8,000 people. Now, as of last year in the census, I guess in 2020, we are approximately around 20,000 people in the town, 57,000 in the county. So it's just the town has grown immensely, but it has retained that small town charm that you can walk downtown and know your neighbors. And thankfully, through my work in the newspaper business, I was sports editor for a couple of years at the Star, and then I decided, as we were progressing in our marriage and talking about children and family, that those long hours of working 10 in the morning until 1 in the morning the next day just were not going to work. So I became the community editor, and so that put me in contact with a lot of our businesses and a lot of our nonprofits and a lot of our government leaders. And so I got to meet, I'd like to say almost everybody. Got to know a lot of the movers and shakers in Culpeper. And then I got burned out in the daily biz, and I went and worked at the Culpeper Times as a graphic designer in 2015, and eventually moved back into the editor role because of my expertise of knowing our community. And it's just having the boots on the ground and getting to know the people. And so now when I've moved to the chamber and this job opened up, it just for me seemed like that natural progression, because I'm still being able to do what I love, and that's tell the stories of our neighbors and be able to promote our town, our county, our businesses, our nonprofits, and just there really is no place like Culpeper. The way that we are all able to work together, my good friend Pastor Brad Hales, Reformation Lutheran Church, has allowed me to use his 3 C's. It's communication, collaboration, and caring. And that is what sets Culpeper apart. I've talked to several other townships and towns and counties throughout the pandemic, and no other vicinity is doing the things that we're doing and being able to work across different organizations and different departments and be able to make things happen. So we'll get into some of that in a little bit, just our collaboration with our town tourism and town economic development and our county economic development and our Parks and Rec and our Culpeper Renaissance Inc., which is our Main Street program. We all work together, we all collaborate, we all communicate extremely well, and we're all able to have the same vision of what we want this town to be and how to promote it. And I think that is what sets our town apart. And I think there's some lessons to be learned about how other organizations can be able to make things happen in terms of just that type of communication.
No, and that's one of the things from having that small town environment. My wife and I lived there for about 6 years. I was heavily involved with the chamber, heavily involved in the community, and got to see a lot of that collaboration, firsthand. When you took over that role. You think about the chamber in and of itself is a lot of event driven, a lot of getting together, hands in the pot, making things together. And you kind of take over that role right at the time where it was like, no, you can't do any of that stuff. How hard was it to get a foothold in a new role, but one that was usually, you think of it traditionally precipitated on getting together, event-driven meetups, things of that nature, even if smaller. How were you able to navigate those waters successfully? Because I talked to you, you told me, what was it? We had lunch together a couple weeks ago at the time of this recording, and you were like, we've had, 40 new members sign up in 2022? How were you able to navigate those waters when everybody else was, in panic crisis mode? Not saying that you may necessarily weren't in the beginning.
So I started in February of 2020, and I do believe my first day was February 17th. And I started, and our staff was our Director of Programming and Operations, Amy Frazier, and we had a temporary staff member, Yvonne Letzum, at that time. And 2020 was going to be our best year yet. We were energized. We were really excited. Certainly, I had a lot to learn. I understood the community, and I understood the relationships, but when you're coming into a nonprofit realm, of which the chamber is, there is a lot of the back end that you need to quickly be immersed in. And I always refer to it as being, fed, drinking from a fire hose. So in March, it was March 13th is when we learned everything was shutting down. And that day we had a mixer with the Fauquier Young Professionals and our Culpeper Young Professionals. And we got together at Old Trade Brewery, and we had a good bit of people come out, but I remember Amy and I scrambling around to find what hand sanitizer we could. Masks weren't quite a thing yet, but it was something we were trying to locate. And that was the last real networking opportunity we had for 3 months. And we quickly had to say, well, we have to be the leaders. We can't just shut down because everybody else doesn't want to shut down. We have to find ways to be creative, to be able to keep business going. So we quickly started having town halls online. Our State of the Community was scheduled for March, and we had to postpone that, but in May we hosted it virtually. We quickly learned about Zoom, and we, at the same time, we were switching to Microsoft Teams with WinStar Technologies, which was one of our platinum partners here at the Chamber. And WinStar held our hand, taught us all the technology of how we could have team meetings, how we use Zoom. We quickly bought microphones, and we quickly pivoted. And that, I think, is the key word. And I know everybody kind of cringes now at the P word, but we had to be flexible and we had to be understanding. So we knew that there was a large group of our population that was very hesitant, but we wanted to show that you could still continue to conduct business. A lot of our restaurants did curbside delivery. We helped promote those. A lot of our businesses opened websites for the first time and started offering curbside pickup. And they found new ways to utilize social media. We had town halls about the financial side of things, what loans were available, what grants were out there. And then in the summer, the town, through some ARPA funding, And the county also received some American Rescue Act funding that they created a program called Culpeper Cares. And that was a grant program for businesses that were impacted by the pandemic, that they could go and fill out a form online and fill out some information, financial information, and they were able to receive grant money to keep them going. We served as administrators, helping out as businesses, members and non-members came to us and said, I don't have an email. I don't have a computer. I don't know how to navigate this. And we would sit down with them, help them log in. Some of them used my email at the chamber to create an account so they were be able to get into the back end and file for those grants that kept them flowing through the pandemic. And that was, for me, one of the most rewarding things. We created lifelong friendships and relationships with folks that we may not have known very well ahead of time, that we were able to help them. And it was just that communication and collaboration of working with the town and the county, and Paige Reed with the town economic development and town tourism was a huge part of that. And working with Chris Hively with the town manager, and John Eggertson with the county, and working with Phil Sheridan, who at the time was the economic development director, and is now Brian Rothamel, who came from Fluvanna, is now our economic development director here in the county. Just working with them, open lines of communication. How can we get the information out there? We had a newsletter that we were sending out and updating on our website that was COVID-19 resources with what grants were available. REC had grants, Path Foundation had grants for nonprofits. And it was just communicating with them. And a lot of our nonprofits, they were the ones that were truly impacted because they weren't able to host business the way they used to. Culpeper County Volunteer Fire and Rescue Association had hosted bingos forever, and that was their major fundraiser. None of that happened. The chicken dinners, the spaghetti dinners, none of those were able to happen unless they were takeout, and it may not have been as impactful. So we helped communicate with them. Our nonprofit council helped generate ideas of how that they would be able to get back that funding, how they were able to make pleas on social media to the community to let them know that our nonprofits, while they were impacted financially, were still operating. They were still serving the community. And so it was just getting that information out there that, while you might not see them, they are still in this behind the scenes helping service our community. We helped our nurses and our hospital staff. We provided food early on. We worked with the Country Club of Culpeper. They donated food to the hospital, to the Volunteer Fire and Rescue Associations, to our paid staff. We helped coordinate delivering those. We worked with other organizations to deliver toilet paper to the Salvation Army. Local hotels would bring us, and we were kind of that clearinghouse that we would help get it to where it needed to be. So it was finding different ways of doing business and yet having a community impact.
So it sounds like for sure that you guys were taking a hub and spoke mentality. I mean, you were at that center of coordinating different types of relief effort based because people were reaching out to you going, hey, I need help with whatever it was that was directly affecting them. You going, hold up, I know which resource can coordinate and help with that. And so you were able to facilitate with that, in that you were a main point of contact to facilitate relief efforts during that time period. And that was in your first month, starting on the first month of the job.
That was essentially my first year. It was, trying to coordinate all of that. But I mean, you bring up those connections and making those connections. That is what a Chamber of Commerce to me is creating those connections, building that economic engine. And if we don't know an answer, we know somebody who does know that answer. So somebody will call here and say, hey, I need help. I need to talk to somebody. I want to start a business, and it's this great idea. I don't know who to talk to. And they think, we're with the chamber. Well, we don't have all the answers. So we would slide them over to Dave Reardon, the Small Business Development Center, Community Investment Collaborative out of Charlottesville. Dave is associated with now. And Dave has business plans. Dave knows what small business loans are available. Dave has years of financial information that he's able to share. He knows all the trends. He's able to break everything down and tell you what businesses are here that already might be in that realm and what niche you can fill. So it's making those connections, and I think that's really, our pivotal goal is to be able to connect our community to get everybody the resources that they need and provide them those services.
What type of you mentioned the Small Business Development Center and some of the SBA stuff. How do you function if from the local government standpoint? Because this was something I know when I was involved, that they would sit there and go, if something came up within the community that needed to be voted on, does the chamber get involved? Does the chamber not go involved? Are you advocate for the businesses? How has that changed? How have you navigated the water with those types of things that may pop up within the community? Because you are one of the faces, Jeff say, you are one of the faces of Culpeper, and so I imagine that type of stuff pops up. I would think periodically, at least.
Yes, and we've encountered that, and there's still conversations we have at board level. We'll have a vote of whether do we make a stand on this, or and sometimes and most of the time, what it is we serve as the conduit. We're putting the information out there. We're not saying yay or nay, because we don't have the final say, no pun intended, on that decision. That's something that our town council or our board of supervisors or somebody higher up is going to be making those decisions. What we can do is provide the information to our community, to our businesses, to our nonprofits, to our residents, and let them know what is coming. And then they are able to go and speak to the board of supervisors or to the town council or to their representatives about what they have learned that we have provided that information.
No, that's awesome. Switching gears a little bit, because a lot of the stuff, it is all that collaborative environment, and your chamber staff is small. You have to rely on the community probably in a volunteer mechanism to come in there. How has that changed, or how has that evolved as now we're starting to open back up? Are you seeing a lot more people wanting to be involved, and hey, I can pitch in and help with XYZ and this event or that? How has that allowed you to continue the success within the community?
Well, first let me put in a plug for our team, because I was blessed to come in with Amy Frazier as our Director of Programming and Operations. And Amy is a dynamo. She's lived in Culpeper all her life. She went away for college a little bit, came back, and she is just amazing. She has her pulse on what is important in Culpeper. She has a heart for our community, and she works harder than anybody I know. And our events run so smoothly because of her. She has every logistic planned out ahead of time. So she did an amazing job throughout the pandemic of transitioning our events, that we did host all of our 10 signature events throughout the pandemic, and then coming out of the pandemic, we're still hosting them, some of them hybrid, many of them in person, a couple of them virtually. But our Culpeper Fest in 2020, which is our largest business to community event, we had nearly 1,000 people come out to Eastern View High School Cyclone Stadium in the middle of a pandemic. And then we found that type of vendor opportunity to be able to get in front of our communities at the track, where everybody's set up along the football field and everybody comes in the track and goes around one way, that provided so much exposure for our businesses and nonprofits that we did it again in 2021. And we're doing it again here coming up June 10th at Eastern View High School Cyclone Stadium from 4 to 8 p.m. We're doing that again. And it's Amy's ability to be able to think quickly and work and create relationships that people are more willing to say yes, and we're able to, and they know that her heart and our heart is in the right place, that we're able to make these events happen. And then I mentioned Vaughn Letzum. She was our temp, and during the pandemic, and then in March, she had some elderly family she was taking care of, and she said, I cannot work, I can't come out, as we're in the middle of a pandemic. And then about a year later, we put out a call for our administrative assistant, and all of a sudden Vaughn popped up in our Indeed, and I said, yep, she already knows, and she's perfect. She has this personality. Again, when you call, you're getting a friendly face, you're getting a friendly voice. We listen, we point you in the right direction, or we're able to give you the answers that you're looking for. And if we don't know the answer, then Vaughn is able to direct them to myself or Amy, and then if we don't know the answer, we direct them on. So our staff, first and foremost, is incredible. And I'm so blessed to have those two ladies in my life and in the chamber realm, because I wouldn't be where I am today without them. Now, volunteers, we've seen more people now coming out and saying that they are willing to help back out and be committed to the community. During the pandemic, our young professionals were extremely vital, that they were volunteering throughout everything. They always host a crab feast in 2020. We weren't able to do that, so we quickly decided to have a charity car wash, and we partnered with Culpeper Car Wash, and they donated $2 of every car wash on one of the hottest days in July, and we were outside volunteering, wiping down cars, scrubbing tires, collecting extra donations. And that year we had picked the Culpeper Food Closet as our nonprofit. Every year the young professionals select a nonprofit that they're going to give back to. It was just kismet that we had selected the Food Closet earlier in 2019 to be the charity for 2020, because they really needed it. And so we raised, during the pandemic, $2,000 for the Culpeper Food Closet.
Awesome.
The next year in 2021, we benefited the Groundworks Project, which is a joint partnership between Rappahannock Goodwill and Verdun Adventure Bound, which helps students learn leadership skills and get some resume building skills, and is just an overall amazing opportunity for young people who need maybe a little extra help. And so we raised $2,700 last year on the backbone of our car wash. We had a kickball tournament last year, and we had our crab feast, and we were able to raise that much. This year, our charity car wash is coming up July 9th. Again, at Culpeper Car Wash, it's going to be all day from 9 to 5. You're going to be hearing about it on WJMA coming up soon. We're going to have some radio ads about it. But we're looking for volunteers for that. But we've had a lot of folks reaching out and saying, yes, we want to get back out. We want to help. And especially the younger generation, the millennials, because they really are plugged in to the social aspect, and they understand how important it is to give back. And that's something I'm always talking to our businesses about, trying to find a nonprofit that you support or a cause that you support. In Culpeper, if there's a cause you support, there's a nonprofit that is already there servicing that community. So whether it's pets or children or working with youth sports, that we're able to find a connection. And so it's so important now for our businesses to be able to give back to our nonprofits, to keep that going. And that's just marketing, right? I mean, that's a way to get your name out, that you are helping support somebody in our community. And I think that really is so important. So when it comes to volunteers, we've seen quite a few already signing up for Culpeper Fest on June 10th. The car wash, our sign up genius just went out. We have a sign up genius on our website for Culpeper Fest. If you would like to volunteer, please sign up. It's a great opportunity to get out, to meet other people, and that's what people are looking for right now, John, is they're looking for that networking piece that was missing for 2 years. They want that personal connection. They want to get out. They want to see faces without masks on. So that's what the beauty of...
Or through us like the screen right now.
Like this now, absolutely. But hey, we had lunch the other day. We had lunch in person for the first time in a couple of months, but it's being able to make these connections. But as you mentioned, during the pandemic, we were doing this through Town Hall and Zoom, that we had folks from UVA Health talking about vaccines and what to look for. We had folks from our financial groups, YHB, Dave Reardon from the Small Business Association. We had other folks talk about Alan Rasmussen from RRCS talking about mental health and how that was impacted during the pandemic. So we had kept that going, but now when you're able to get back in person, I will share that with Culpeper Fest in June 10th, coming up in about 3 weeks, we have, as of this morning, 9 booths left. And we added booth space because we no longer have to social distance. So we're going to have over probably 110 vendors.
That's awesome.
Or organizations.
Congrats.
Let me say organizations, because
Sure.
that's businesses, that's nonprofits. We have folks that are going to be bringing a mechanical bull. We have a whole children's area. So we are really excited, and we're looking forward to the community coming out and supporting and getting to know their neighbors.
One of the things that I've seen, and congrats on the continued success and expansion of those programs, And talking about that, I've seen and been invited to other different chambers, and there's a lot of similarities between them. Most of them will have a lead share group. Most of them will have their big banquet. Most of them, they may have their state of the community, whatever they want to call it, in local government for people to not realize that's a good way to meet your local representatives if they do those types of events, which most do. Culpeper does do some unique things that I've not seen, such as like career partners. Can you talk about some of the unique programs that I know that Culpeper has to support entrepreneurs?
So Career Partners was started in the mid-90s, and it was spearheaded by Norma Dunwoody, who was at the Chamber of Commerce at the time. And the Chamber has supported Career Partners, which is its own 501c3 nonprofit, but we have supported them through scholarship funds, and I serve on the board, on the executive committee. So I'm tied into Career Partners, and it's one of my favorite things. And Career Partners has grown. In the mid-90s, they were working with students, and the goal was to bring business leaders into high schools because they had identified that high school students weren't prepared coming out of high school to go right into college or right into businesses. And so they saw that there was a need. And when they started working on programs, and that included mock interviews, and then so that is still one of our programs, but it's continued to grow. And we have so many programs now. We have Teachers for Tomorrow, which helps fund students through Shenandoah University, that they go into classrooms and they work with teachers, and they're able to learn about what it is to be a teacher, and then they earn credits at Shenandoah. So when they're graduating high school, they've already got college credits. Same with nurses. We have a program that works with them. We have our STEM Day, which is out at Airfest, and we set up 2 days out at Airfest, and we bring in all the fifth graders from Culpeper County Public Schools, the 6 elementary schools, and they get to see everything that goes into flying an airplane. There's going to be a flight simulator this year. So there's just a lot of great interaction. But for me, the highlight is E Squared. And E Squared is like Shark Tank. And it started in 2008. It was the brainchild, and they always hate it when I say this, but it was the brainchild of Mike Dale and Chuck Jory. And both Mike and Chuck have since won our L.B. Henready Outstanding Citizen Award through the Chamber. They are visionaries. They are some of the smartest men that I have ever met, and they have a heart for our community. And so they were talking about, how do we get young entrepreneurs engaged, and how do we introduce them to business leaders in Culpeper and help them formulate ideas and then be able to present them. So what it is there's a group, and there's classes at both Eastern View High School and Culpeper County High School that this year there was 10 teams, and those teams can be as many as 5 students. There were some that had 3 students. In our history, we have had winners that only had a team that had 2 students. But they come up with an idea, a business idea. They come up with a business that they have to formulate a business plan, including financials, including marketing, including how they expect to grow. And they go in front of a judge of 7 judges, a group of 7 judges, just like Shark Tank. And they sit and they present their business plan that's on a PowerPoint, and they have to have presentation skills. They have to have a business plan written. They have to have their financials all figured out. And they go and they present, and they're judged on a rubric of how they did in the business plan and how they did in the oral presentation. It's incredible. I honestly have not seen anything else like it anywhere in the Commonwealth. I've talked to folks at our Virginia Association of Chamber of Commerce executives meetings about it, and they were like, we want to copy this. We want to do what Culpeper and Career Partners is doing. And it's because of that collaboration, communication, and the caring is that we all work together. So let me share one quick story. The winning team this year was Spark Adventure Care, and they were coming up with a way. They identified a need that there was not enough after-school daycare for students. There are a couple of programs. We have Kids Central, which is through our Culpeper Department of Human Services. We have the Culpeper Baptist Child Development Center. They also do preschool, and they have pre-care and aftercare, but there's waiting lists at both places. There's waiting lists at all of our preschools. There's waiting lists at our Culpeper County High School and Eastern View High School programs for students, the Little Blues and Little Cyclones for preschool students. So they know that there's a need, and they were trying to find a way to address that need. And they came up with a business plan that they were going to buy the old Star Exponent building. They were going to have 10 employees, and they were going to provide aftercare, along with an opportunity. There would be a tax stipend for those that needed it, that they would be able to find a way to get them some funding. They were asking for the investors to put in a stake, but they had it all figured out. But what stood out to me was they were doing the in-person oral presentation, and they went to a video. And there was a young man, Chris Patel, who was acting as the CEO, or he was the CEO of the company. And the audio on the video, as you know, sometimes when you do a video to a PowerPoint, the audio doesn't always connect. And so you couldn't hear what the people in the video were doing. And I could see this small moment of panic go over his eyes, and he quickly grabbed the microphone as soon as it was done and said, "Well, I apologize for the audio issues, but this is what they were saying." And then he quickly went through and just, Cliff Notes style, gave a detailed report of what those important community leaders were saying on the screen. And I thought he handled it with aplomb. And the entire group you couldn't tell that was something that wasn't supposed to happen. They just made it seamless. And they ended up winning. They were also the only team that I'm aware of that reached out to the chamber and spoke to me about membership, and spoke to me about participating in the Business Industry and Education Day to get teachers who, teachers have kids, so they've got to find ways when they have after-school programs, they have meetings, and they have other things going on. Sometimes their kids, and my wife's a teacher, my kids will sit in her classroom and just kind of twiddle their thumbs, or, I don't want to say get in trouble because my kids are pretty good. But this would provide them, they could be bused to this location, and they would have opportunities to do carpentry, to do STEM, to do baking. And there was all these ideas, and there would be summer programs. And so they were going to present that to our teachers at BIE Day. They were going to come to Culpeper Fest and present that to the community. And I thought that was just genius. And I was grinning like a proud papa, and as I was sitting there, as our logos are popping up, and I'm like, wow, these guys, they did their homework, and they ended up winning. So, but that to me is the beauty of Career Partners, and it wasn't just them. I mean, there's 5 other teams in the finals, 5 other teams in the preliminaries that were just as prepared. And they this year were tasked with the social aspect of talking about food insecurity. And there was one business that came up with a food truck that was going to partner with Merchants Grocery. They had identified that Merchants Grocery, which has been in Culpeper for more than 100 years and delivers groceries. They're a wholesaler. They deliver all around the Commonwealth. And they said that 30% of their produce is thrown out. And they said, so the food truck talked to them and said, hey, what can we do if we're using ugly produce? What can we work something out? And Chris Smithers, the CEO of Merchants, said, I will give you this produce because we're just throwing it out. So they completely cut out a lot of their bottom line because they're being donated this produce that is ugly but is still good, and they were going to make salsa with it, and they were going to can with it, and they were going to make these wonderful food truck creations with it. I was very impressed. Rachel Dillon was one of the young ladies that led it, and she works for Burnt Ends Barbecue, which is a food truck based down here off of 29. And I ran into Ronnie Rios, who owns it, who's also opening up downtown here in Culpeper. And I just told him I was just so amazed and impressed with the poise that this young lady had and the passion she had. She is going to be somebody who comes back to Culpeper, and she's going to open a food truck, or she's going to have a business venture, and in 8 to 10 years she is going to be a mover and shaker here in our community, because you can just tell. And it's amazing to watch these young people grow, even in the 5-minute presentation that they'll start off shy, and you see them gain confidence because they know they can do this. And it's being able to provide them that opportunity. And this year, we surprised them. So every year, all the winners on the team, Career Partners has given a $5,000 scholarship to. Thanks to a grant through the Path Foundation, this year and going forward, winners of the E-Squared program are going to receive a $10,000 scholarship.
Wow. That's awesome. So most of the people that entered that, did they actually go on to continue to execute the business plan, or was it for the construct of the contest itself to get that experience of what it takes to formulate.
I'm not aware of any businesses that have that they've taken the business plan and made it happen. Some of them are quite adventurous and
Sure.
They've won and they've been amazing. But I will say that I know that young people that have been involved and that have won have come back to our community and have served our community. Jason Ford works for Rappahannock Goodwill Industries. He's on our chamber board. He's a vibrant member of our young professionals. He was the first African American student president at Mary Washington. He is incredible, and he coached a E Squared team this year after he had been part of E Squared, I think 6 or 7 years ago now. So he's come back and given back. And Jeb Carroll, his grandfather was Bob Jebson, was one of the ones that helped start the program, the E Squared program. And Jeb participated in it, and I think Jeb won, and now he's back coaching. So we see these students coming back and giving back into the community and showing that I've become successful because of what I've learned through E Squared and Career Partners.
No, and that's awesome. And I wanted to piggyback a little bit because I completely forgot that I did mock interviews many times when I was there. Mm-hmm. I will say I was the only one. Every time I did it, I never had a partner. So I will set the stage. If you've never been involved in a mock interview, I believe these were going to be rising seniors, if I recall correctly.
Correct.
And you'd go in, and they were set up in the gym, tables around. All the students would come in, and they had a list of jobs that they were going to be quote unquote interviewing for. And so there should be tables with two people conducting the interview from the community to the students. I don't know how it worked out. I was always solo for whatever reason. I didn't think I was intimidating, but that's just how it worked out. But it was crazy to see, some of the students, the preparedness. I mean, a couple of the ones, I thought I had gotten all the alma maters one year. I'm talking back to back because they were going into like pre-med, and one kid was actually doing rocket science. Some of them were extremely nervous. Others of them, I don't even know when they had time to sleep with all the extracurricular activities. But it was to give them that experience of talking to essentially a stranger in a professional capacity. I will say that a lot of times I'd go off script because I did have one student that absolutely did not like any of the jobs on the list. And so I went off script and said, "What do you like to do?" And I said, "Well, we can talk about that because I know about that as much as I know about anything else on the list." But it was an awesome experience. I thoroughly enjoyed doing, I forget how many times I did that. I did it a bunch. And it was one of those things to be able to get involved with the community and also work with, students that had never done some of that before.
So we did mock interviews in 2020 and 2021 virtually. We did them through Google. That's what the schools were using, Google Classroom. So we did them, and I participated. Amy participated. We always have business leaders and our chamber board participate. For me, I say this all the time. It's one of the most rewarding things that I do because it's just be able to connect with those students. And I'm like you. I go off script. You're not supposed to. And I'm out here.
Oh no!
I'm out here.
I got my hand smacked a couple.
I did too. I did too. But there was one young lady in 2020 that stands out to me that we were talking and she was telling me what she wanted to be. It was she was applying to be a waitress at a restaurant, but she was explaining that she was the first member of her family that was ever going to graduate high school, and that she was the translator for the family, that nobody else spoke English, that she spoke both, she was bilingual, but she would serve as the translator for her family, and she had all these responsibilities, and she was working a job. And I was just completely going off script because I wanted her life story because she was just so incredible. And I'm like, you need to take this and use this because these skills that you have of working with your family are skills that can be translated to any job. And I know that Amy had some conversations with a young man that we get some of the ones that are just polished and ready. And then there's other ones that are like, I don't have any experience. I've never had a job. I work with my dad in landscaping. And they're like,
I watched a kid almost look like his heart was going to come out of his chest. He was so nervous. And I'm like, dude, calm down. It's okay. it was from all kinds of backgrounds.
Yes, absolutely. It's just it's a conversation. It's making them feel comfortable and letting. And there was a young man this year that came and he sat down and was talking to me. He was applying to be a barista at our local coffee shop, Raven's Nest. But he and I started talking, and I said, "So you seem really passionate about coffee." And he's talking to me about how the brews he does, and he knows all this stuff. And he goes, "But what I'm really passionate about is theater and art." And I'm really passionate about fantasy, high fantasy. I wanted to make a dragon coffee shop, and I said, "You are somebody that needs to be involved in E Squared." And he stops and looks at me and goes, "What's that?" And I'm like, "The teacher's right there. I'm going to call her over. She's going to write your name down. He's a junior. Next year's a senior. We need to get you involved in this program because those are the budding entrepreneurs. Those are the people that have the dreams and are going to lead our vision and our country in years to come, and we need to tap into that now."
No, absolutely. And before we run out of time, I got like two more questions. First one, last one's going to be personal, but the first one is, how do you see the chambers continuing to evolve and reinvent themselves in changing times as you're bringing up, you're talking about E Squared, getting those involved in ways that are engaging as major technological advancements coming in there for different types of collaboration and things of that nature. Where do you see it as now we're going into a new, potentially a new age, a new work? Look at the new work environment that's out there now. Most white collar jobs have a majorly remote work and component to them. How do you see this affecting the chamber's relationship with businesses as business itself is evolving?
That's a great question. I think that I think the best way to do is to stay transformational instead of transactional. That's something we've talked about before. There is this perception of chambers that they've just always asked for money, and that it's old white men in a dark room with cigars. And we're trying to change that culture. We've started a diversity, equity, and inclusion group. It's going to be a committee and a council, but we're allowing them to pick what they want to be called. And so we met in April, met again in May, we're going to be meeting again in July, and it's trying to find ways to highlight how diverse our community is and be accepting, because there is so many different groups that we just want them to feel like they have a sense of belonging in our community. And so it's growing that and bringing them in. And the chamber's role is to serve as that conduit, and for me to be able to serve as that connection agency, to be able to bring our community together, to bring people to the table, to be able to get work done. And that to me is more traditional, right? I mean, that's being able to build those connections, to have those relationships, but to communicate. And that's what we need to do, is to build those lines of communication, to be open, to be welcoming. And then when you're getting into your newer reality of, how do you navigate social media? Our small business council is going to be having a breakfast mixer. I do believe it's July 12th that we're going to be having it. That's going to be focusing on social media, and we're going to have a couple speakers, local speakers, somebody from the small business group with Dave Reardon. He has a whole team down in Charlottesville. They're going to bring up this, going to talk about the big picture, and we're going to have somebody talk locally, a social media expert, to talk about maybe one thing businesses can do, but really highlighting how you can promote yourself on social media. That's something that we've worked really hard on. We do all of our ribbon cuttings now on Facebook Live. We do them in person, but we also broadcast them on Facebook Live. We had one for Bailey's Cookie Bar on Monday, and we had, as of Tuesday, we had 1,500 views on that video. I think
Awesome.
we're over 2,000 views on that video already. So it's expanding that reach, letting people understand that, yes, you want to be in the community, but there's also this whole other realm that you can be on social media, and how to best utilize that, how often to post, what to post, how to respond to somebody that has a complaint, how to properly promote yourself. So it's navigating the traditional along with what I would call your newer reality. So it's a fusion of those two things, and I think that we play an important role in that, in serving as leaders of showing how you can adapt and how you can evolve, but while also keeping your feet firmly in tradition as well.
No, that's awesome. And I really appreciate the time as far as discussing the chamber in the future. But I have to cap our conversation off with a story that I have been repeating many, many times about a personal travesty that happened to you in my mind anyway, and try to set the stage without giving away the punchline. You were able to graduate college without graduating. So and how
All right.
and how you need to stay on top of how something 20 years in the past can come and bite you in the butt.
So I it's something that I've talked about with a few people, and it's not my most proudest moment, but I also like to think
It's not your fault. I'll say it's not your fault. It was just a thing that happened.
it's just one of those odd things in life. And so, but I also like to think maybe it shows my problem solving skills and my perseverance. So I graduated from Clarion University of Pennsylvania in 2002, and I worked at a newspaper, and I was working full time in 2000. And so I went back and I finished my degree. I worked my way. I was putting my way through college, so I wouldn't have any loans. That was something that I was very cognizant of. And so I came down to Culpeper. I got a job in the newspaper business, a couple different jobs. I had another job opportunity that I applied for, and I was excited about, and I was accepted, and they started doing the background, and they come back and they said, Mr. Say, we see that you didn't graduate. And I said, what? No, I graduated. I started digging through all my paperwork, trying to find my diploma. I'm sure I had it. I called my dad. My mom passed in 2014. She was the one who handled everything in terms of paperwork in our family. I'm like, Mom had that, right? Like, I walked. I had everything. And my dad's like, I can't find it. I don't know where it is. Probably threw it out. My dad's a very gruff Northwest PA 84-year-old man. So I called the school, and I'm like, hey, can I get my transcripts and everything and get my diploma? And they're like, well, you're 2 credits shy. 2 credits. I did not complete, or one of my professors did not, my advisor at the time did not tell me that I needed a biology class, a basic biology class. And I'd gone through my entire career thinking that I was solid. And yet I was 2 credits shy. So quickly put it in action. I said, well, listen, this isn't going to work. I mean, I can't go through life like this. I have been presenting, for 20 years almost that I'm a graduate. I need to complete this. So the school was very accommodating. Clarion University of Pennsylvania, which is now being merged with, I do believe it's Edinburgh in California, to form a new college, but that my college at the time, 2 years ago. So this was in 2019, late 2019 that I discovered this. And so I quickly enrolled in a winter course in 2020. In December of 2020, it was an online course. It was 6 weeks long, and I finished my biology class with a B. And while I was working full time at the newspaper, and while I have 3 children, girls, Maddie is 11, Mara is 9, and Macy is now 4. So at the time, to take off 3 years, they were 9 and 6 and 2. So I had my family life and everything going on, and I just worked my tail off online to get that done. And I can proudly say that now my diploma is. And we just moved, so I know exactly where my diploma is. It is up near my pants in my closet, and I just have it tucked away there. I might be able to put it in a safe. But it was something that, and so when I applied for the chamber and was going through the interviews, I was in the middle of all this, right? I hadn't even received my diploma yet. I was finishing up that course, and I was open, and I'm like, listen, guys, this happened to me, and this is one of the oddest things I've ever heard of. And since then, I've learned it happened to a couple other people. And
that's crazy.
Which is just insane. But thankfully, my credits still 20 years later still applied. They didn't make me, and I have a degree in communication. That is obviously what I do, and so it is in a liberal studies degree. So I get it. So when you are doing your schoolwork and you go to a college, make sure all your credits are there. Make sure that everything is lined up. Just, dot your I's and cross your T's. Allow me to be a symbol of what can happen if you think you've got everything under control. I will admit, it led to a lot of mental health issues with me. It led to a lot of anxiety. It led to a lot of self-doubt. And but I like to think that I persevered, and the chamber saw something in me and saw that I had a passion for Culpeper, and I had the skills that, and now, right, one of the things that I'm a big cheerleader for, John, is career and technical education, that you don't need to go to college for 4 years.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I'm saying.
I honestly don't know if I needed to go to college for 4 years to do what I'm able to do. I mean, I have a background in obviously print journalism, in radio, in television, but those are all experiences that I gained not in the classroom. That was from after school activities. That was from joining organizations and learning. So, certainly now when you look at plumbing and electricians and cybersecurity, these are all things that we offer at our Career and Technical Education Center in Culpeper through Culpeper County Public Schools, and also in partnership with Germana. There's automotive that you can do. There's culinary. These are programs that you can be certified right out of high school. You don't need to get those student loans. You don't need to work a full-time job while you're going to college, so you don't have student loans. So I'm a huge proponent of career and technical education. College is great, and I had amazing experience in college, but at the same point in time, I don't know that if it's for everybody. So, you've got to find what works best for you, and use me as an example. Please always double check your transcripts.
And there are certain things that, I don't remember a lot of stuff through high school. My mom gets irritated with me because she'll sit there and go, don't you remember this? Don't you remember? No, that wasn't like one of those moments that just stick with you. I specifically remember you telling me that story because you and I were going together to go interview somebody that was doing some new technology work. And you told me, and I remember how mad I got. And I also got mad that they actually made you take a course instead of just going, hey, our bad. And you could send them pictures of like walking through graduation. And I just found that because, to be honest with you, I know somebody else that didn't get their paper degree because they didn't make the effort to go do it and they had just graduated. And I reiterated that story to them. I said, no. Don't let this be a thing of because you didn't take the effort now, you graduated literally 5 months ago or 3 months ago, whatever it was, and didn't get it, that you don't have something like this come back and, quite frankly, bite you in the ass, 15 years later when somebody asks.
Right, absolutely.
And it's so weird. Again, that's why I'm like, this to me is not an embarrassment. It's just one of those oddball things, that like, how does that happen? So
well, I mean, it's perception, right? And I mean, we talk about perception all the time. So I mean, even if it wasn't my fault, there's a perception. Oh, well, you were trying to hide that. I had no clue.
I didn't know.
I had no clue. But I am a man. I like to think I'm strong in faith in terms of where God puts you where you need to be, and where I was going to end up. God knew, and He sent a signal. I would have appreciated a little more subtler of a signal, I suppose. However, I ended up where I was supposed to be, and that for me is I think about it every day. I do, and but I'm where I'm supposed to be at the chamber and promoting Culpeper and be able to promote all of our programs, our Culpeper Fest, our BIE Day, our Valor Awards, giving back to our first responders, and just being able to incorporate all of the things that I've learned in my life in terms of my writing skill, of my people skills, of my ability to just talk on the fly, off the cuff, on radio and television, that it has just worked out perfectly, and it wouldn't have happened without that odd, strange thing.
I will sit there and say, I guess the other sign is at some point later in life, you're going to need to be updated on your biology.
Hey, listen, what's funny is that now I'm able to use those skills and those lessons that I learned during that course to help my 11-year-old as she's going into 6th grade biology. So now,
there you go.
Now it's something I'm able to pass along.
That's awesome. Well, Jeff, man, this has been great. I appreciate the time today and talking about how the chambers are very important within the community and Culpeper specifically and all the events coming up. And you've been able to navigate the waters through all of those shutdown periods and turn it into a great success.
Thank you. I mean, and I thank you for having served on the chamber board and helping guide our chamber in a way to where we needed to be. And throughout the pandemic, it was just how can we help our businesses and our nonprofits, and now that continues is how do we continue to help them not only survive, but thrive.
If anybody wants to reach out, what's the best way for them to do that?
So you can reach me at my email, president@culpeperchamber.com. Please visit our website, www.culpeperchamber.com. We have Facebook presence, we have Instagram presence, we're on Twitter. And also, you can just give me a ring if you're into traditional methods, 540-825-8628.
And I'm going to piggyback on that and say, if you happen to be in another community, you're looking to get involved, you're looking for different ideas, I know Jeff would be open to sharing what's worked and what doesn't work and help you shortcut successes within your own areas.
I believe in R&D, rip off and duplicate.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to leave it there.